The Boy Who Drew Cats, a Japanese folktale. In ancient Japan lived a poor farmer and his wife. They had many children. The youngest son's name was Sesshu. Every day Sesshu and his family went to work in the rice paddies. Although he was small and weak, little Sesshu worked beside his parents, brothers, and sisters. But as often as not, you could see him drawing in the dirt, for that is what he liked to do most of all. Sesshu drew the snow-capped mountains. He drew the flowers, birds, and trees. He drew his family working in the rice paddies. But what he liked to draw most of all were cats. Cats, cats, cats. Cats eating, sleeping, jumping, leaping. Cats, cats, cats. Cats fighting, biting, howling, yowling. Cats, cats, cats. When times were good, Sesshu's parents bought him fine white rice paper. Once, when the rice harvest was especially bountiful, they bought him a bamboo brush with fine horsehair bristles, a round stone hollowed out in the middle, and a stick of shiny black ink. He ground the ink stick into the ink stone and mixed it with a little water. Dipping the brush into the ink, he drew his beloved cats. One year, however, there was a terrible famine. It was said a huge rat goblin held a spell over all of Japan. In winter it opened its greedy mouth and swallowed snowflakes. When the rains came, it lapped up the drops of water. When the rice began to grow, the terrible rat gnawed on the tender seedlings, and the rice stalks withered and died. The harvest was poor, and people went hungry. Because they had very little food to feed their family, Sesshu's parents wrapped their youngest son's belongings in a blanket and set out with the boy for the temple in the next village. When they arrived, an old priest greeted them. Sesshu's parents bowed and said, "There is a famine in the land. We are poor farmers and cannot feed our family. Our youngest son is small and frail. We are afraid he will not live through the winter. Please take him in and teach him to be a priest. He is a good boy and will do whatever you ask." The old priest asked Sesshu a few questions. When the boy answered his questions quickly and accurately, the priest saw that Sesshu was a bright child and agreed to take him in. Sesshu bowed to his parents and bid them farewell. He followed the priest to a small room, where he unrolled his blanket and put away his few belongings. Underneath the blanket, he hid his prize possessions, his bamboo brush, ink stick, and mixing stone. Then he followed the old priest into the temple. "You will have to work hard, Sesshu," said the old priest. "You must keep the temple floors clean and work in the rice paddies, and when the priests pray at night, you must pray with us." Sesshu promised to work hard, and indeed he did. He worked so hard at his tasks that he went to bed exhausted every night, and for many weeks he did not think once about drawing. So it was a surprise to Sesshu when, early one morning, while the priests were still sleeping, he woke up with an uncontrollable urge to draw. He took out his ink stick and chipped some ink into the mixing stone. Then he took a little water, mixed it together with the bamboo brush, and began to draw all over the temple floors. What did he draw? Cats, cats, cats. Cats eating, sleeping, jumping, leaping. Cats, cats, cats. Cats fighting, biting, howling, yowling. Cats, cats, cats. When the priests came into the temple and saw the cats, they said, "Who did this? This should not be." But Sesshu said nothing. Weeks passed, and Sesshu worked hard, keeping the temple floors clean, working in the rice paddies, and going to prayers. But again, he woke up very early one morning and had a terrible urge to draw. He took out his ink stick, his mixing stone, and his bamboo brush. He added water to the ink, mixed it together, and began to draw all over the temple walls. And what did he draw? Cats, cats, cats! Cats eating, sleeping, jumping, leaping. Cats, cats, cats! Cats fighting, biting, howling, yowling. Cats, cats, cats! Once again, when the priests came into the temple and looked upon the walls, they said, "Who did this? This must not be." But again, Seshu said nothing. Many more weeks passed before Seshu woke again with that urge to draw. He took out his ink stick, mixing stone, and brush. This time, when the priests awoke, they did not notice anything unusual. Seshu swept the temple floors and worked in the rice paddies. That night, when the priests opened their books to pray, what did they see? Cats! 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 Cats eating, sleeping, jumping, leaping. Cats! 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 Cats fighting, biting, howling, yowling. Cats! 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 The old priest looked at Seshu and said,
"Is it you who have drawn on our floors, walls, and prayer books?"
Seshu hung his head and said, "Yes, it was I."
"Seshu, it is obvious that you were meant to be an artist, not a priest. You must leave. But before you go, I will give you some advice. Avoid large places at night. Stay to small spaces."
Seshu thanked the old priest. Then, taking his belongings and blanket, he left the temple. The rat goblin still held Japan in its spell. There would not be enough food in his parents' village, so Seshu walked toward the nearest village in the opposite direction. "Perhaps there is a temple. If I work hard and do not draw, maybe they will let me stay." He walked until he came to the next village. Like Seshu's village, the people here were also affected by the drought. Here, too, the rat goblin's spell kept the rains from falling and the rice from growing. Seshu stopped everyone he met. "Can you tell me where I might find the temple?" But the people's faces were pinched with worry and hunger. They scurried away and did not answer. Finally, he asked a gnarled old woman, "Please, tell me where I might find the temple." She pointed to a steep hill just outside the village. Seshu bowed, thanked the old woman, and started to turn away, but she touched his arm and warned, "Avoid large places at night. Stay to small spaces." It took the entire day, but he finally reached the top of the hill. The temple grounds were littered with leaves. Seshu thought to himself, "I will sweep the grounds clean." As he knocked on the old door frame, he noticed the wood was cracked and the paper door was torn. "I will fix the door. I will work very hard, and maybe they will let me stay." When no one answered, he carefully slid the door aside and walked into the temple. It seemed to be deserted. Seshu was very tired after his long walk, so he rolled out his blanket and lay down. As he closed his eyes, he noticed several large, pure white rice paper screens on the far wall. Seshu sat up. They were beautiful. Seeing the screens, Seshu again had an uncontrollable urge to draw. He took out his ink stick and chipped some ink into the mixing stone. Then he took a little water from the courtyard, mixed it together with a bamboo brush, and began to draw. What did he draw? Cats! 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 Cats eating, sleeping, jumping, leaping. Cats! 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 Cats fighting, biting, howling, yowling. Cats! 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 Never had Seshu drawn such beautiful cats. They were almost perfect. Lying down again, he closed his eyes. Then he remembered the words of the old priest and the old woman. Avoid large places at night. Stay to small spaces. Though the temple itself was huge, On one side of the room he found a small cupboard, just big enough for a small boy in a blanket. Sesshu squeezed himself in and fell asleep. Around midnight, Sesshu woke to a loud scratching and sniffing. He was so terrified that he could scarcely breathe. The scratching and sniffing came closer and closer. It stopped right at the cupboard door. Then, to his astonishment, one long black claw pierced the cupboard wall. Sesshu heard a tremendous growling and hissing, followed by a horrible screeching and screaming, thrashing and dashing. The boy covered his ears, but he could still hear tearing and ripping, roaring and bumping. All night long the terrible sounds continued. Just before dawn, it grew deathly quiet. Sesshu waited until the first rays of sunlight filtered through the cupboard door. Then, very cautiously, he opened the door and peeked outside. In the middle of the floor lay an enormous rat, as big as a cow. Its bones were broken and its flesh was torn apart. There was blood all over the floor, and the rat lay still, silent as death. "Who saved me? Who killed the rat goblin?" Sesshu looked around, and there, on the rice paper screens, from the mouths of each of the cats he had drawn the night before, dripped blood and rat's flesh. Sesshu bowed to the cats, then rolled up his blanket and left the temple. Outside, a light rain was falling. Now that the rat goblin was dead and the spell was broken, rice would grow again. Sesshu walked toward his own village. When he arrived, his family was overjoyed to see him. They say that Sesshu lived a long and happy life in the village. Indeed, he became a famous artist. To this very day, people in Japan admire his paintings. Sesshu drew the snow-capped mountains. He drew the flowers, birds, and trees. He drew the people working in the rice paddies. But every day, no matter what, he was always sure to draw at least one or two cats, cats, cats. Cats eating, sleeping, jumping, leaping. Cats, cats, cats. Cats fighting, biting, howling, yowling. Cats.